Why don't pirates take a shower before walking the plank? Well, it's because they're going to wash up on shore later anyway. What's going on, YouTube? So today we are going to answer one of your guys' most requested questions yet, and that is the state of the ESO Crown Store, and generally, what do I actually suggest that you get from the Crown Store? Because I think the Crown Store is just generally an overwhelming place of new things and things that sometimes have a purpose, sometimes they're just purely cosmetic, such as, the statue, purely cosmetic. You got this dummy here, purely cosmetic. There's a whole lot of things to go into. You've seen that I bought some things recently. And so generally, just what do I suggest that you guys get with your crowns if you're able to have ESO Plus? And if you don't have ESO Plus, what are some things that are worth investing in with gold? So you can obviously buy crowns from other players. That is still legal. And you can buy that for about 100 to 1 gold to crowns on Xbox NA. About comparable on consoles across, if that's EU, PlayStation, and then on PC, it's all sorts of whacked up. So starting off, let's just briefly go through the different types of items. So you get an ESO Plus free item every month and some limited deals. I generally don't ever really find anything super exciting in here. You're never going to find anything that's really not purely cosmetic. 99% of the time, and even if it isn't purely cosmetic, it's probably like something like an XP potion, which is not going to be very helpful. I would never suggest buying like XP crown scrolls from the ESO store. Special offers, here's where you start to see some of those items. Anyone that has ever suggested that this, you can see, look, this is a perfect example. I just generally log into the game and I have 184 crown experience scrolls. That doesn't include the 100% buff ones, and that doesn't include the 150% buff ones or the 30-minute ones. You will get a ridiculous amount of XP potions and XP scrolls playing the game. Never buy any of these items. They're just generally not worth it, except maybe the Any Race, Any Alliance bundle. However, the majority of you will already have this, so make sure, because the base game, depending on which version you got, usually comes with this. But generally, the easiest way to explain this is that you can pick any race on any alliance. It used to be Breton couldn't become part of the Dirty Ebonheart Pact because, that's basically blasphemy. Now, these days, they allow you to do that if you have this bundle. This also, fun fact, does not give you the ability to play the Imperial, which is part of the Imperial Edition, which the Imperial Edition, also fun fact, you might also already have based on whichever version of ESO Plus or ESO you purchased to play the game. So just all food for thought. Next, we have crown crates. Now, I have notoriously been indifferent towards crown crates because at the end of the day, everything in here is pretty much cosmetic. There are a lot of people that don't like it because it's gambling. There's a lot of people that like it because it's a good gold sink for people. It's a good crown sink for people so they don't flood the market, essentially. What does that mean? What does that subject that I just mean? So, a lot of the endgame players will have hundreds of millions of gold. There are people with billions of gold. And a lot of times, they'll just sink their money and buy crowns from people to buy crown crates. And that's kind of their end game sink. It kind of helps circulate the economy for newer players if they want to come in, buy some crowns, sell it to a more experienced player who's got a ton of money and get a little bit of cash, for it. I generally think that this is okay. I don't like gambling. I don't like that the odds are very, cattywampus. But that is kind of the pros and cons to it. It also serves as something that, generally when I get my 5K crowns, I'll sometimes just throw it into crown crates because there's really not a whole lot of things that interest me, except for a few things that we'll kind of go through as we kind of go on by. So, DLCs. As you actually play ESO, you actually get DLCs for free. For example, Morrowind is now free, so obviously you always go up and pick that. But sometimes, too, the developers will make it oopsie poopsie, and they'll just give out DLCs for free. And some of the older content, they've been slowly kind of going through and re-releasing it. Now, if you're a brand new player who doesn't have ESO Plus, what are some of the things that I suggest in here? Number one, I think Blackwood is probably the best expansion for a brand new player. It is going to give you access to the starter companions. The Blackwood Zone is actually pretty incredible when it comes to sets, storyline, and so on. Elsewhere is another really good option. It just gives you access to dragon farming, which is one of the most profitable things that you can do in the game. There's a free house that comes with it that's pretty baller. And Greymore. Graymore gives you the addition of Antiquities, which is a fantabulous addition to the game. Gives you access to farm some of the #1 mythicals in the game. And as a quick reminder, just because I forgot to mention it, Elsewhere also comes with Sunspire, which is one of the #1 trials in the game to farm. One of the ones that I recommend that you guys really start, to practice on. Imperial City is also now free these days, so you guys are easily able to kind of go in there. Next, I would recommend you possibly get a Somerset. Somerset gives you access to the ability to make jewelry crafting, so you can craft your jewels. Sounded a little weird, but you also get the ability to get the Psijic Order skill line, which is not too shabby. If you're a fan of PvE content and solo content, you want a really good storyline, the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood, the Thieves Guild, you see down here, Dark Brotherhood is up here. Get access to 2 really kind of niche guild lines that you're not going to really need for any sort of best-in-slot skills or anything, but overall, I think it's definitely still a pretty good storyline, great story, and it does come with some new flavors of ways to play the game. When they actually released the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood, it really kind of made a lot of systems kind of come together, kind of made you play the game differently. There's a lot of stealth things that you have to do in these storylines that you really never had to do before. Stealth was never really a thing outside of PvP content. So it was really nice to see those twists, those instances that they made specifically for these, and the ways that kind of adapted people's ability to play that. So those are those actual DLCs that I would suggest if you don't have ESO Plus. And realistically, Dark Brotherhood, just because I'm looking at it here, that's only about 200,000 gold. You could purchase this from another player. So they're relatively cheap to purchase if you are going out and farming gold in any sort of capacity. Quest starters. So what are these? So these prologue quests are basically like the developers are going, hey guys, we're going to release this real baller chapter update. We're going to give you a singular quest to kind of go out, take a little peek at what we're crack-a-lacking up in here. You can see that these are all for different ones. The Demon Weapon, for example, is from Elsewhere. Dragon Guard is from Dragonhold. The Coven's Conspiracies, Greymore, etc., etc., etc. And then if you also scroll all the way to the bottom, you can get a free house. Now, generally, I do suggest you do this because houses are a free teleport. What's better than saving money on a Way Shrine teleport? And you can get these in different cities too, which is pretty neat. Upgrades. Here's where I actually suggest things for those who have ESO Plus and those who don't. Armory slots really depends on you and your character. I get a lot of utilization out of my Sorcerer, mainly because he's like the character that I use to really build the YouTube channel around, so I really can't log off and use a different character, so gotta have a lot of armory slots for it. But even I only have 4, and he's like my main, mambo jambo here, so I don't think you need a whole lot. You get 2 for free, and the armory system is a little bit down, so you'll see kind of here in just a little bit as to my explanation of the armory system, but the actual slots itself, I think you don't necessarily need a whole lot more than 2, which is 2 is the free amount. Maybe 1 additional one, but that's totally up to you. Now, assistance. This confuses a lot of people, so we're just going to pop the cherry right here, right now. If it says it's a banker, it's a banker. And they're all the same. The bankers are all the same. They don't do anything different. The cat is no different than the crow, which is no different than any of the other ones. Now, what are the actual differences here? So this banker, he follows you around except for PvP zones, and let you put items in them. Access your bank. Not guild banks, just your personal bank. Bankers are pretty decent. They're in the top 2 of what I would suggest that you actually utilize for yourself. Merchants, second one, or traders, whatever. And what's nice about these guys is you're going to be getting a whole lot of gobbledygook that you're not going to want to keep. And for those of you who don't know, it actually binds things to your sticker book when you quick sell things to a merchant. So it's actually a way you can implement sets and things into your sticker book, so you could still reconstruct them at a later date if you would want to, but it also gets them out of your inventory and gets you a little bit of gold to do that. Now, we talked about the armory just a little bit. This is an assistant that's basically an armory on the go. The armory is a little bit down below, so we'll talk about here in just a minute, so hang tight on that. The rag picker, I think, is great for newer players and not great for players who generally already have a maxed out crafter. The rag picker, you can think of it as somebody who's like a deconstruction bench on the go. Is that helpful? If you're really trying to level up your ability to craft. However, what I generally suggest people do is that if you have a house, just put all of the stations in your house, or join a guild that's got a guild hall. They usually always have all the crafting stations in the front anyway. Go in there, deconstruct your gear, and leave. For 5,000 crowns, I don't think I would personally get about 500,000 gold worth from the rag picker, but I do get that from the banker and the merchant, and I definitely don't get that from the armory assistant. There are some people that stand by the armory assistant. I am not one of them. And then these guys here are just different flavors of those little bad mamma jammas. Additional character slots, I'm a huge fan of. And obviously, if you haven't maxed out your current character slots, you don't have to worry about that. Why do having more characters helpful? More daily quests, more inventory space. I use characters as inventory space. More classes to play, different types of content on, do different types of thing. A Nightblade just plays very differently than a Sorcerer, than a Warden, than a Dragon Knight, than a Templar, etc., etc., etc. You can have different alliances. It's easier to have different, roles like tanks, healers, etc. on multiple characters. So I just generally suggest multiple characters. Obviously, if you don't have maxed out characters, don't buy additional slots, but you know what I mean. Classes, Necromancer, Warden, they're just good, Do I recommend any of the collector's packs? Now, depending on which version of ESO Plus, you might be like me and get these for free. The Imperial Edition is pretty good if you do wish to actually have the Imperial race. Everything else here you're not going to use. I don't see the Mud Crab very often. I don't see people using the Imperial Horse. When this came out, a white horse was all the rage, but now we have dwarven spiders that spew flames out of them. So I don't necessarily know how many people are going to be chomping at the bit to show off these calves and these cankles on this thing. So probably not useful. The Pledge of Mara has so much potential to be a helpful item, but it just isn't. 10% XP is pretty good, but you have to be playing with the other person and you have to be wearing it. Please fix this, Cinemax. Just let it be a flat 10% buff, like if they're online or they're in the group with you. Don't have it so restrictive. Any of these other ones I generally suggest, not really. While I think that there's definitely a mathematical breakdown in your head you could do. So generally, anytime a DLC comes out, this is a little bit of an economist Jake coming out here. These treasure maps have a lot of value because there's going to be the ability to get rare motifs from opening the chest that you can scry. So these treasure maps, when High Isle was first released, were worth probably 100k each. So which means that you could essentially, save some money by having somebody gift you the High Isle Collector's Pack, and then you could then open those maps and try to make your money back. It's kind of like a little bit of gambling. Now, the problem is that the longer the DLCs are out, the less value those motives have. So these days, it's not worth a whole lot, but just food for thought. Also, bag space and bank spaces can be upgraded without crowns. You can do this at a bag space merchant. Now, if you really want bag space, buy these pets because they just give you a flat 5 increase to all your characters, which means if you want to use them, it's like pack rats like I do, which is ironic because this is literally called a pack rat. This is the best way to do it. Never buy these. You can just buy these with gold, from the bankers or from whomever, and buy these bad boys instead. Outfit slots, up to you. Riding lessons, I don't generally suggest. You can just log in every day and upgrade your mount. Also, remember, too, that champion points give you the ability to go faster and move faster, so keep that in mind. Here we have all the tokens for people who've messed something up and they really want to fix it. Not something I generally suggest. These are all the skill lines that you can put on your other characters if you have them unlocked already. So you cannot pre-purchase them outright unless you have them done. Most common one I see people do is the Mage's Guild, the Sigic Order, because they just are like, I don't want to do that again. Which is, you know what? That's fair. Here's the problem, though. You can't gift these. You have to purchase them for yourself. Also, don't buy a werewolf bite or a vampire bite. Just ask somebody. Discord, Facebook, band groups, Reddit. Please never buy that. Then we have Sky Shard. So that kind of wraps up the upgrades one, which is the majority of what I would suggest in the actual Crown Store. Utility, we're just going to blow through this one very quickly. Is it worth utilizing these scrolls? Not really. These scrolls, I think, are better served. There is every scroll you see in here, there is a potion that a player can craft counterpart. Attributes, never buy that. Skill respec, all of these potions, useless. Houses, I'm a huge fan of the ESO houses, so I mean, like, you know, I think that they're good investments, but I also enjoy that type of. To me, housing is an end game version of content. It's the social end game of ESO. You get to utilize all those furnishing plans and all those things that you've been crafting for a long time, and you can finally put them all together. You can see that it goes into the furniture piece right here. Do I suggest it generally, though? No. I would not generally suggest that if you're a brand new player, you immediately invest in a house because it's just a gold sink. And it's really for people who need more things to do and they really want to live on a pirate ship and they don't want their financial purchases questioned. So, Armory Station, here we have the Bad Man Pajama. This is very simple. You basically create loadouts. This is free. So you put this in your house and you have the ability to create different loadouts. I have a PvP one, a PvE one, and then another PvP one, and then a Vampire PvP one. So you can actually switch curses like between Vampire, Werewolf. It's super simple. All you do is you take your current loadout, all your skill points, champion points, curses, Mundus Stones will be saved, and then you can switch it around and then save another build. And you have 2 builds you can go through, and you can flip between them for free. Also, if you have a blank build, you can just spec into that, and it will reset everything for free, which is also very helpful. The vampiric liberations are also fairly helpful. What they are, basically, you can increase and decrease your vampire levels, which notoriously you have to use through food or through eating people, which can be, whatevs. Ethereal Well can also instantly regen all your stuff, which can be helpful if you're parsing and whatnot. And the rest of this stuff is really just flavor, except for these chests. You could buy these chests with Ritz and or Telvar. Buy them with that. Truthfully, I would not waste the crowns on them. What they are just placeable extra storage space. And then the rest of this is just garbage that if you really wanted a lot of this stuff, buy it from the ESO. Guild Traders. Style Parlor. There's a lot of stuff in here you can get relatively cheaply, which means you could buy it for a couple thousand gold. Nothing in here is really anything extra wacky or extra cool in my opinion, but, it's worth going through. I've gone through and bought stuff here every so often as, I get gold or get extra crowns. I mean, it's not bad. Although I buy things like this personality and I use it on 0 characters. So, I mean, to take it all with a grain of salt. Crafting, not a huge fan of anything here. You can buy these crown research scrolls for gold. They are the 1-day versions. I generally don't suggest wasting crowns on that. All of these styles you can purchase with gold also. Don't suggest any of that. Customizable actions. I mean, if that's, if that's your cup of tea, go ahead. Wardrobe. This is where I generally purchase things. As those of you know, we bought this for our Redonius Red Face character. An absolute mad lad. And, I do usually buy the limited time weapons packs just because I think that they're pretty neat and, nice flavor-wise. Dyes. Not a huge fan of. Skip. Mounts. Can be cool, but I mean, I feel like you can get a lot of really cool mounts from a lot of different places. Now, I will tell you that the actual 2-person mounts have more utilization than you would think. When you guys are farming events together, such as Mid-Year Mayhem, it can be really nice to be able to put another person on your mount. And I think that that's actually a pretty good utilization that gets kind of underused. Non-combat pets, not a huge fan of, except these top 3. And that brings us back to the beginning. This has been my review of the ESO Crown Store. What did you guys think? I hope that this was helpful. I pretty much went through the entirety of the Bad Man Pajama. I am not the greatest of influences here. I do, absolutely love furnishing and I love housing, but I also don't necessarily suggest it right away. I think it's a bit foolish to jump right into an MMO and then be like, well, I need to sink all of my gold into furnishings, when really you want to level up and you want to focus on getting, your ability to get more gear, get more armor, get more everything. And then once you have those things, then you can start farming achievements, farming quests, and getting the things that you would need to then, push to different types of endgame content, whether it's PvP, PvE, or housing, social, and stuff like that. So that's going to wrap up the video. As a quick reminder, to do our 3 giveaway drawings, all you have to do is like the video. All you have to do is subscribe. And then the third one, all you have to do is listen for an audio cue and word prompt will be flashed upon the screen in a random video throughout the entirety of the month. And the drawings will be on the 1st of the month at the beginning of, next month, because the 1st of this month has already happened. That's what the last one was. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Thank you for listening to my text messages and audio prompts go off because I am working emergency duty and it just continues to get stuff and things. And I have re-recorded so many bits at this point, I've just given up on it. So thank you, I love you, and I'll see you later.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
No matter what happens, I have tried to mute different devices as I've been recording this video, but then if I mute my computer, the prompt will play through my watch, or it'll play through my phone, or sometimes my work phone will ring, sometimes dispatch will call my personal phone, sometimes my work computer, which is right next to me, that'll start making noise. There's just no winning. I apologize for the audio cues throughout the video. I'm losing my mind, so thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll catch you later. Peace. So starting off, let's just briefly go through the different types of items. So you get an ESO Plus free item every month and some limited deals. I generally don't ever really find anything super exciting in here. You're never going to find anything that's really not purely cosmetic 99% of the time. And even if it isn't purely cosmetic, it's probably something like an XP potion, which is not going to be very helpful. I would never suggest buying XP crown scrolls from the ESO store. Special offers, here's where you start to see some of those items. Anyone that has ever suggested that this, you see, look, this is a perfect example. I just generally log into the game and I have 184 crown experience scrolls. That doesn't include the 100% buff ones, and that doesn't include the 150% buff ones or the 30-minute ones. You will get a ridiculous amount of XP potions and XP scrolls playing the game. Never buy any of these items. They're just generally not worth it, except maybe the Any Race, Any Alliance bundle. However, the majority of you will already have this, so make sure, because the base game, depending on which version you got, usually comes with this. But generally, the easiest way to explain this is that you can pick any race on any alliance. It used to be that Breton couldn't become part of the Dirty Ebonheart Pact because, that's basically blasphemy. Now, these days, they allow you to do that if you have this bundle. This also, fun fact, does not give you the ability to play the Imperial, which is part of the Imperial Edition, which the Imperial Edition, also fun fact, you might also already have based on whichever version of ESO Plus or ESO you purchased to play the game. So just all food for thought.